Welcome to this video on the Psalms, focusing on frequently asked questions about their structure and composition. How many letters comprise the Hebrew alphabet used in canonical acrostic psalms? The answer is 22. What term is used for psalms where each verse or section begins with a successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet? They are called alphabetical or canonical acrostic psalms. What is the primary poetic structure of Psalm chapter 119? It has 22 stanzas, with each 8-verse stanza beginning with a successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. What is the total number of verses in Psalm chapter 119? There are 176 verses, calculated as 22 stanzas, multiplied by 8 verses per stanza. Symbolically, what does an acrostic from Aleph to Tav represent regarding God's Word? It represents the completeness or totality of God's Word, similar to A to Z. Besides poetic beauty, what was a practical purpose for the acrostic format in the Psalms? It was intended to help with memorization. Which two psalms are considered to form a single, albeit irregular and incomplete, acrostic together? They are Psalm chapter 9 and Psalm chapter 10. What is the specific acrostic pattern of Psalm chapter 25? Each verse begins with a successive Hebrew letter, though it is slightly incomplete. Which Hebrew letter is notably missing from the acrostic sequence in Psalm chapter 25? The missing letter is Vav. How does the final verse, verse 22, of Psalm chapter 25 deviate from the acrostic structure? It is an extra prayer for redemption that does not follow the alphabetical sequence. Which psalm is characterized as a messianic psalm but does not follow an alphabetic acrostic structure? That is Psalm chapter 22. What is the acrostic structure of Psalm chapter 37? Each section, or double verse, begins with a successive Hebrew letter. How do the acrostic patterns of Psalm chapter 111 and Psalm chapter 112 differ from most other acrostic psalms? Every half verse, or poetic line, begins with a successive Hebrew letter. Which letter is missing from Psalm chapter 145 in the standard Masoretic text? The letter Nun is missing. Where has the missing Nun verse of Psalm chapter 145 been discovered by scholars? It has been found in the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint. According to the provided material, which two psalms both skip the letter Vav in their acrostic order? Those psalms are Psalm chapter 25 and Psalm chapter 34. What does the Hebrew letter Vav literally mean? It means hook or connection. What might the intentional absence of the letter Vav in certain acrostic psalms symbolize? It might symbolize a quote, connection caused by human sin or imperfection. Which biblical book contains acrostics in its first 4 chapters? That book is Lamentations. In the book of Lamentations, which two letters occasionally swap their usual alphabetical order? The letters Ayin and Pei sometimes swap order. Where in the book of Proverbs can an alphabetic acrostic be found? It is found in Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 to 31, the description of the woman of valor. What is the general theme of Psalm chapter 119? The theme is devotion to and love for God's Word, including the Torah, statutes, and commandment. In Psalm chapter 119, which letter begins the section for verses 105 to 112? The letter Nun begins this section. The famous verse, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path," is found under which acrostic letter in Psalm chapter 119? It is found under the letter Nun. Which Hebrew letter represents the 22nd and final stanza of Psalm chapter 119? The final letter is Tav. What is the primary theme of the Teth section, verses 65 to 72, in Psalm chapter 119? The theme is how affliction can be a blessing that teaches obedience to God's statutes. In the Lamed section of Psalm chapter 119, what is described as being settled in heaven forever? God's Word is described this way. What is the core message of the Shin section in Psalm chapter 119, verses 161 to 168? The core message is that great peace belongs to those who love God's law. According to Jewish commentators like Rashi, why are some acrostics broken or incomplete? This is to show that human prayers are limited and only God's Word is perfect. What is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet? The first letter is Aleph. What is the final letter of the Hebrew alphabet? The final letter is Tav. The section of Psalm chapter 119, beginning with Beth, focuses on what theme? It focuses on maintaining purity by taking heed to God's Word. Which section of Psalm chapter 119 emphasizes the psalmist living as a, quote, stranger in the earth? That is the Gimel section, verses 17 to 24. In Psalm chapter 119, the Daleth section focuses on revival from what state? It focuses on revival from cleaving to the dust. What is the recurring request in the He section of Psalm chapter 119, verses 33 to 40? The request is, "Teach me, O Lord, the way of thy statutes." In the Zayin section of Psalm chapter 119, where does the psalmist find comfort during affliction? The psalmist finds comfort in God's word. What does the psalmist declare God is to him in the Heth section, verses 57 to 64? God is declared to be his portion. The Yod section of Psalm chapter 119 acknowledges God as what to the individual? God is acknowledged as the creator who made me and fashioned me. In the Mem section of Psalm chapter 119, what does the psalmist claim gives him more wisdom than his teachers? God's commandments and meditation on his law provide greater wisdom. In the P section of Psalm chapter 119, what does the entrance of God's words provide to the simple? It provides light and understanding. The Seideh section of Psalm chapter 119 focuses on what attribute of God? It focuses on his righteousness, as Sadi means righteous. Which acrostic psalm uses exactly 2 verses for every Hebrew letter? That is Psalm chapter 37. Which acrostic psalm uses exactly 2 verses for every Hebrew letter? The answer is Psalm chapter 37. Which acrostic psalm includes the verse, "I will bless the Lord at all times"? That would be Psalm chapter 34. Which psalm is specifically titled The Blessed Man and uses a half-verse acrostic structure? Psalm chapter 112 fits this description. Which psalm is described as a word-centered acrostic? The answer is Psalm chapter 119. In the Samek section of Psalm chapter 119, what does the psalmist say he hates? He hates vain thoughts while loving God's law. The Ayin section of Psalm chapter 119 includes a plea for God to work. Because of what situation? Because people have made void God's law. In the Qaf section of Psalm chapter 119, the psalmist describes crying out with what part of himself? With his whole heart. The Resh section of Psalm chapter 119 concludes that the sum of God's word is what? The sum of God's word is truth. How does the final verse of Psalm chapter 119, the Tav section, describe the psalmist's state? As a lost sheep seeking to be found by God. Which acrostic psalm is an alphabetical hymn of praise and is missing the letter Nun? That is Psalm chapter 145. Is Psalm chapter 25 considered a perfect or almost complete acrostic? It is considered almost complete, missing the letter Vav. What is the structural difference between the acrostic in Psalm chapter 111 and Psalm chapter 119? Psalm chapter 111 changes letters every half verse, while Psalm chapter 119 changes letters every 8 verses. In the context of acrostic psalms, what is the Masoretic text? It is the standard Hebrew Bible text. What theological concept is reinforced by Psalm 119's perfect acrostic structure? It reinforces the perfection and completeness of the Torah, which is God's law.